All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Call, and I'm joined by my brother, the Gritty Broman. How are you, Brent?
I'm well, thank you.
We are, every Sunday in the month of February, we're publishing a hunting film.
We got 3 elk films, and we got a little whitetail film coming out.
Yeah, a really cool whitetail, spot and stock whitetail film, but spot and stock archery. Mm-hmm. And it's got some cool, it's a fun hunt. And then we're going to do another 4-week launch in April of movie every Sunday. And then in June, we're going to do the same.
August.
So you see a theme here. Every other month, we're gonna release a video every Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Our films are really time consuming for some reason.
There's just 1.5 of us, 2 of us. Yeah, it takes a while to produce and edit, and that's about the pace we can keep up. We can't do every Sunday. That'd be like 52 films for the year. But we figured we could probably do 24, which is about half.
And that's still, I feel that's a reaching just for a little bit.
It's a little struggle
it's
for us.
It's a little struggle, but we're making it so far in the first month. It's going good.
Yeah, so our goal is every other month to give you guys a month worth of films on every Sunday. Check that out. Today's podcast is a continuation of the outdoor life discussion that we had earlier, and I think this one's pretty cool because it's about crossbows and high fence hunting. 2 things which are just they kind of rankle a lot of hunters, and people have different feelings on it. And so I'm going to start with the crossbow thing. You know, it's a very contentious subject, and
I got a buddy. He never says crossbow. He calls them crossbow guns.
Crossbow guns.
It's a crossbow gun.
It's an interesting article, and the title of it says, "Crossbows don't have to kill bow hunting season." Now, I don't have the data. Mm-hmm. I haven't researched it enough. I don't have the data to really speak to the crossbow thing. I'll read what the article says and the data that they cite in the article. It's not super well researched as far as I can tell. There's just a couple of things that are brought up that kind of give you an idea of the impact of crossbow hunting on an archery season. But I think it's still really limited in the data. So it goes like this. The debate over whether or not crossbows will end bow hunting rages on because new regulations always seem to be on the horizon. Currently, 29 states allow full inclusion of crossbows in regular archery seasons. But at least 2 of these states, Wyoming and Wisconsin, are rethinking that policy. Kentucky, on the other hand, had a more limited crossbow season in previous years, but just opted for a longer crossbow season within the regular archery season. There are good points that support both sides of the debate, plus some that have proven to be bunk over time. For example, the argument that crossbows will help us recruit more new hunters simply isn't true. In many eastern states, overall deer license sales continue to drop even years after full crossbow inclusion. Not surprising at all. There's not a lot of romance associated with crossbows, in my opinion. And just because you made it a little easier for people that are new to it, part of the reason people want to do things is because they're hard, as you'll see later in this article.
Yeah, but it's also like, whatever. Keep going.
Crossbows are not the silver bullet for declining license sales, though they do generally give older bow hunters the opportunities to stay in the game longer. Yeah, if you're 70 and you're having trouble getting a bow back and all that, you can still hunt an archery season with a crossbow. It's still a short-range game in a lot of ways, you know. The argument that crossbow hunters will crash deer populations isn't valid either, at least in most of the deer-dense whitetail states. And that I am not convinced of.
Yeah?
I am not convinced of that. But let's read what he says. Even in Ohio, where crossbows have been legal in archery season since 1984, and where crossbow kills made up 27% of the overall harvest, that's in 2017, the state is still working to increase deer harvest and lower the deer population. In reality, the reason why people get so fired up over crossbows isn't because of the data. This debate is much more personal than deer harvest stats. It's about core values. What do you value most as a bow hunter? Do you care more about killing deer, or are you more motivated by the experience and challenge of bow hunting? Before you answer, here's how I came to my own decision. So, before we read what he says, think about that question. Do you care more about killing deer, or are you more motivated by the experience and challenge of bow hunting? Now, I'm interested in both. I want to kill a big deer.
But you want to get close to
and
it?
I also want to bow hunt. I want both. I don't want either or. I rifle hunt. I like rifle hunting. It's still a super big challenge. Where we go is a challenge. The challenge can be in finding that needle in a haystack giant deer. That can be the challenge. It can take you 14 days to find that deer, right? The challenge isn't shooting it necessarily. It's just finding it. The weapon is kind of irrelevant to a degree, that you can find challenge in either weapon. For example, you take a crossbow out during an archery season. You can make it more challenging. Kill a much bigger deer. Try to find an older deer than you could otherwise find. There's your challenge. The other thing is to go trad, right? And shoot a forked horn. That's a pretty big challenge.
Yep.
You
shoot anything with a trad, that's a big thing.
My point is, challenge can be had in all walks, all of it. And then based on your experience level, you might like the challenge of being able to shoot an animal with a trad bow more than you like the challenge of shooting the, great grandpa giant buck with a crossbow, right? Everybody has their own challenge that they seek. And to me, I'm kind of more interested in the challenge of finding and killing a big deer than I am the weapon I used to do it with. I love to bow hunt. I love to rifle hunt. I think I'd like muzzleloader. I think I'd like a crossbow. I've never really cared much. For me, it's about all of it. It's all fun. It's all about a challenge, though. I don't want to just walk out. What's a letdown is you walk out, like when we were hunting tar in New Zealand, that last place we went in the lowland grasslands, we were finding big tar everywhere. We were. And so we ended up going, well, crud, we could shoot a tar right now. Any bull tar that rivaled what we were trying to kill in the other Alps area. And to make that really a fun and challenging hunt, we really did need a bow and arrow because it was just so easy to do with a rifle. It wasn't even a challenge anymore. Again, it's not necessarily weapon related as much as I'm looking for a challenge. He says it's not data driven. It's value driven. Now, I don't agree with that. He only cited two things, two very limited examples. He just said, "Hey, in Ohio, crossbows have been legal since 1984, and they still can't get enough of them shot." That does not. You can't just draw a single corollary line between crossbows and that, and say, "Okay, crossbows aren't making a dent." How many other variables are involved?
What's the weather been like?
What's the weather?
Droughts?
Well, I mean, what are your tag sales? Have those gone down? What's your hunting opportunity, your lease, private land, public land opportunities? And has your deer population exploded into, just because there's more habitat and more animals, and you know what I mean? Like there's so many variables that just isn't enough. And then and that's the only thing really he cites to counter the argument that deer populations are going to crash. And he says super deer dense states. I mean, let's take a normal unit like here in Utah, where the success rate, because the success rates with crossbows are just higher, period, in general. You can look at some stats. Now, how much higher is debatable. Like, I don't know. But it's a lot easier to aim with a crossbow than it is with a bow and hit what you're aiming at, especially if you just mount it to a tripod and you're just like resting it there and you put a scope on it and you shoot it. Like, there's not a lot. You're just
crossbow gun.
It is. And so the idea You're delusional, I think, if you're going to try to say that crossbows won't increase harvest rates.
Here's the deal. There's a level of lethality with every weapon. Guns being at the top.
Mm-hmm.
Crossbow guns right underneath that. You got compounds, then you got recurves,
Right.
and then you got sticks and stones.
Right. I do think that it's not just a data thing. I don't think this is enough data to say that crossbows, that's why people don't like them. Some people don't like them. I think there is a threat. I think that crossbows probably should have their own hunting seasons in a lot of areas.
Probably.
I'm not against a crossbow.
Mm-mm.
Just like I'm not against a muzzleloader or a muzzleloader season.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you have a muzzleloader specific season.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, it's in the hierarchy of difficulty of killing.
Here's my thing. I would love for them to make it a separate season because then I could hunt again.
Or you have to choose one or the other. Either archery or...
I don't like choices.
Because right now I can kill one deer in this state. And I can either do it with a bow or a gun. The gun tag is going to be harder to draw. I might have to hunt every 4 years. When I can hunt every year with a bow. You know what I mean? So, to me, when it comes to the crossbow, it does kill more animals. It is more lethal. So, when you plug that into the hunting season, the archery hunting season, it could really decrease hunter opportunity to hunt. It could decrease the number of tags you can issue for archery guys because you've increased harvest rates with that weapon being added to the pool. So, in that sense, sometimes I just think, hey, it's better to create a separate 7-day season for that, or separate 15-day season for crossbows, or lump it in there with muzzleloaders. You can hunt with a muzzleloader or a crossbow. Find seasons and locations for that weapon specific. But I think it sucks to lump it into the archery season with everybody else. It just starts to become, I think, too easy. So let me read you this guy's experience with crossbow. Kind of where he came to his conclusion. He said, I've been hunting the same family deer property in Wisconsin since I was a kid. I killed my first buck there when I was 14 with a hand-me-down Browning compound cranked down to 45 pounds. One Friday afternoon last November, I found myself scrambling to pack for an archery hunt on this family land. I was in a rush, trying to beat traffic and get to deer camp in time for dinner. And there, sitting next to my compound, was a crossbow that I knew was sighted in with shiny new expandable broadheads screwed into 3 of the arrows in the quiver. I did a quick calculation. 1. Wisconsin allows crossbow hunting in the archery season with the purchase of a bow tag and a $3 crossbow stamp.
Okay.
Number 2.
At least they get to pay extra.
I didn't shoot my compound as much as I should have over the summer. Guilty sometimes.
Cutting corners.
Number 3, it's been a while since I've killed a buck on the family property.
Well, I don't get what these points are.
These are just calculations
4,
in his
I had
head.
kind of a big lunch.
No, he's just saying, okay, here's where I'm at. If he takes his bow out and he's not the best shot, I'd be more worried about wounding the animal than, not being able to kill the animal.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, man, that crossbow is deadly. So that was number 4. Those are his calculations, okay? It's deadly. It's been a while since I killed a buck. I didn't shoot my compound enough, and it's legal. Those are his things, okay? I threw the crossbow in the truck and gunned it to camp. No pun intended.
Crossbow gun.
My dad, uncle, and grandpa had been hunting pretty hard through October, but the next morning was my first sit on our land that fall. It was frosty, quiet, perfect. A few hours after sunrise, I heard the crunching march of a buck headed my way through the timber. Right away, I could tell he was a good buck for our area. Mane being stretched outside his ears, and 8 symmetrical tines curled skyward. The buck sniffed his way down a trail as I leveled the crossbow into my shooting lane. The buck took his time, but didn't stop to look up in my direction. There was never a moment of doubt. Never a, maybe he'll see me draw. It's a huge advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, he crossed the lane at 30 yards. I squeezed the trigger and watched him die through the scope.
Crossbow gun.
Crossbow gun. Right on you. It was one of the bigger bucks I'd ever killed on our land, and I was thrilled with the deer. But back at camp, as I retold the story to my family, it felt like something was missing. When you trade your bow for a crossbow, you're not just losing that moment at full draw, you're also skipping all those quiet summer evenings punching holes in your 3D deer. You're trading in the careful preparation required of an archer. You're giving up the ambition to perfect a craft. Couple thoughts there. I agree. You are giving that up. You also shot a giant buck, one of your biggest ever.
Mm-hmm.
And did you have fun? And one thing that struck me is it was one of the bigger, he says, it was one of the bigger bucks I'd ever killed on our land, and I was thrilled with the deer. But back at camp, where I was judged by my family and my friends, I thought, that's kind of how I read it.
So what'd you shoot that with?
It's like, oh, yeah, great job on that giant buck, but asterisk, you did it with the crossbow, so it doesn't count. You know, you're going to have all kinds of buddies. I'll go shoot a big mule deer with my gun, and people are going to say, oh, but it doesn't count because you didn't bow hunt it. People are always going to say that. I don't care. I really don't hunt for other people, really. Like,
what does this
I don't
have to do
care.
with killing bow hunting season?
He's getting there.
Is he?
He's getting there.
Because so far, it's all feelings.
Oh. You love these kind of articles, don't you?
Oh, man.
But so far, it's all feelings. The data is out the window. We are now talking about feelings. No, but seriously, so he shoots it with a crossbow. He's all happy about it. It's one of his biggest bucks. He's like, sweet. He gets back to camp, and as he's telling the story, he feels like something's missing. How much of that is allowing the judgment of other people to impact your experience? Because I don't give a dang. I really don't. If I went on a crossbow hunt and I shot a great deer, I'd be thrilled. It's legal, and I did it legally. I don't care. If you want to have the bow experience, then have the bow experience. I don't go out on a rifle hunt and then go, man, I wish, I should have done that. I wish I didn't do it, and I actually wish I bow hunted instead. Like, they're not either or for me. Like, I do this one like that, and then I do these other ones like this. I have both experiences if I can. You can make that argument. It's a circular argument that never ends. Okay, I had this debate with someone once who shall not be named, and we're sitting here and we're having this discussion, and the person said, Brian, when you go and use a Garmin Zero sight, okay, you've now cheated to get your deer. Right.
What about that rangefinder you have stitched right next to your binoculars?
You've taken the shortcut to get it instead of doing all the hard work it takes to get it the right way.
You mean this hard work?
It's like, who decides the right way? It's not your hunt. It's mine. It's my tag. I can go on any legal hunt that I want and have the experience I want. I really don't care about your judgment. I don't care what you think. It's not your hunt. You go hunt with a homemade stick bow if you want. I don't care. You do you, and I'm happy for you to go do you. I'm going to go do me. I like that Garmin Zero. It's hella fun. And I kill big deer with it. And
in the states that it's illegal, you use a regular sight and you kill big stuff too.
Exactly. The idea, though, that, okay, you're cheating or you're not putting in the work to deserve the animal. Okay.
People can say he's cheating because he's on a lease and not public land.
At what point do we end that argument? Okay. At what point are you not cheating? Okay. If you use OnX Maps, are you cheating? If you use a spotter, are you cheating? I would argue that spotters kill more animals than anything else. Binoculars and spotters.
Glass, yeah.
Glass.
E-scouting? Is e-scouting cheating?
It's funny because if you want to strip someone of technology so it's a harder hunt, people pick and choose which technology they feel like they should strip from you. You can't use a Garmin Zero. Your soul is dark as night if you do.
But I can use my ATV to go 20 miles deep.
You can use your ATV while I hike 30 miles.
That's fine.
I'm going to use OnX Maps, to put me exactly where the animal is and guess where he is on the other side. I'm even going to plot him on the map so I can walk right to him on the mountain over there. And I'm going to use a $3,000 spotter that allows me to see the deer in the first place that I would never be able to see ever, and find that buck or that whatever. And also, you know what? I'm going to bring some sweet binoculars to help me along the way as well, not just a spotter. So when I'm in close, I can make sure I find him and kill him.
But don't you dare combine your
don't. And what's funny is it's the same guy that's like using a handheld rangefinder and a sight that he dials. It's like, wait, if you think it's wrong for me to use a rangefinder on my bow, then isn't it wrong for you to use a rangefinder in your hand?
Brian, they're separate entities. They're not connected at all, Brian.
When rangefinders first came out, you had all these dudes out there saying, that's cheating.
People are going to take unethical shots
now because they have a rangefinder, they're going to take shots they shouldn't be taking. Right? Everybody and their dog, these people were like, bad, bad, bad. Now people are the opposite. It's like, should you be taking a shot if you don't have a rangefinder? Is it ethical
the range
to really take
Can you be
that
sure
shot?
that's 40 yards, Brian? How do you know that's 40 yards?
Or 70?
What magical device told you it was 40 yards?
And the thing is, so I look at this stuff, and it's a never-ending circular argument when it comes to the technology debate. Let's not talk about the personal feelings that you have on the type of hunt you want to have. Because some dudes are like, I never want to use a radio to get in close on a stock, right? But you have other guys that are like, it's funny because I heard, and I love Ranella, love him to death. I'm a big fan of Steven Ranella. Sometimes he pisses me off like most people do. I'm an opinionated guy. He was on the Joe Rogan podcast a few years back, maybe a year ago, 2 years ago. I'm not sure. But he was talking about having a radio and having someone walk him in on a stock he's on it's just not the right thing to do.
Says who?
And I'm like, which is harder? The guy that goes out with a rifle and shoots 400 yards, which is Ranella's limit, maximum, I think, is he doesn't want to shoot over 4. Which I really appreciate and value because, with today's gear especially, it's a pretty doable shot. You're limiting a lot of areas for error. But which is easier, that or having a compound bow in your hand, doing the same stock on the same deer, but a buddy with a radio telling you how to, hey, the deer's bedded, it's still bedded, sneak up to the edge. If it's legal for him to use the radio and he's sneaking in with a compound, is that not a harder technique than just a rifle at 400? You know what I mean? It's like,
I get that, yeah.
The rifle is technology. You're like, yeah, man, that's how real men do it. They bring a rifle. They don't use a radio. It's like, well, what about the guy with the stick bow and a radio? I put my odds on the rifle dude.
Oh, hands down, every time.
For easy. So it's kind of funny how, like I said, we kind of gravitate toward the technology we like. Oh, no, it's totally cool to use a topographical map that puts you exactly where you need to be. And it's also super cool to go ahead and use advanced optics that blow your mind. And
I hate ATVs and dirt bikes. I'm not going to lie. They drive me nuts when I'm
or
out there
an
and I see them.
ATV or whatever. It's ironic that we kind of pick and choose the technologies that we like and we don't like. And to me, ignore all that stuff. It's not about that. For me, technology boils down to a really simple black and white equation, and I've had this discussion before. And people seem to have a really hard time grasping it. So I'll see if I can lay it out there. Technology is like this. Because new tech is going to hit the market all the time. All the time. New stuff hits every year. That's mind-blowing. Bluetooth knocks and lighted knocks or Garmin Zero Sight or,
they're going to keep rolling.
Arrows are getting more and more advanced. The metal being used in the broadhead and how it's designed, and like everything's changing all the time. The bows there's nothing primitive about a compound bow, right? It is mind blowing what we have today in terms of gear on a compound bow. It's a techno bow that does amazing things. Accurately shoots 95 yards with a well tuned arrow. There's dudes that can just stack them in there. Try that with a 1970s or 80s Jennings compound or Wildcat Martin or whatever. Like, what they can do is incredible. When we talk about technology as a threat to hunting, the more efficient we can be at the killing of an animal, the more ethical it is. That's a goal. We all want to be as efficient as we can. We also bump up against making it as challenging as possible, because there's the other side of the coin. We want to be efficient killers, but we want to make it so it's not too easy, because we want this challenge. We want to be in their world. We want to force ourselves to sort of overcome their wits against our wits, right? And so you have these competing goals of making it hard, but making it efficient and easy. Like they go together. They go against each other, right? And that's why some guys say, I'm going to do a compound bow hunt, but I'm not going to do a traditional, recurve bow hunt. Okay? Because you have this idea, let's make it as hard as possible. Or some guy, man, a compound bow is hard enough. Like for me, I'm not that interested in shooting a traditional bow on a hunt. I love to shoot it just for fun. I'm not sure I'm ready to do it on a hunt yet, if ever, because there's a certain element of difficulty that comes with it that I don't necessarily feel like I have the time to master. So I might choose compound bow because that gives me the challenge that I want at my level for the animal I'm trying to get and chase, right? For another guy, it might be, hey, he's so much better than me in so many ways in the field that he really does want that recurve in his hand to make it that much more challenging and that much more meaningful for him. Okay? We all come at it from a different standpoint. So from my perspective, what we're really dealing with is a personal challenge that we all want to have. That means we're going to choose our own methods and ways of challenging ourselves. And that can be from the weapon to the time of year. Maybe, where I felt challenged this year was in sub-zero temperatures at negative 10 degrees day after day after day, trying to hunt in that in an area where it's all snow and straight up and down. I mean, these are challenges that I embraced and wanted to overcome. And I wanted to pluck a gem, a diamond out of the rough in those conditions. That's my challenge. I'm doing it with a rifle in hand, though, instead of a bow. During elk season, you know what? I was in there in September. I wanted to kill a big, mature herd bull during the rut with a compound solo. That was my challenge, right? But those are personal, okay? When it comes to regulations and determining what is okay for archery and what is not okay for not just archery, but all seasons and all hunts, to me, it boils down to this: hunting opportunity. Meaning opportunity to get a tag and go hunt. We want to ensure that we maintain, at least, I think, our current levels of opportunity. We don't want any reduction in tag allocations. As much as possible, we want to give as many people the opportunity to go out and hunt the way that they want to hunt. Let's take Oregon archery elk, for example. Let's say in a unit, there's a 10% success rate right now, currently, with today's technology that's legal. 10% success rate. Now, you're able to take out of that unit 100 elk a year. With a 10% success rate, that means you could issue 1,000 tags to the public. But what happens if that success rate jumps to 30%? You have to drop the number of tags you can issue dramatically. So that's where technology bumps into opportunity. And in my opinion, you don't want to add any more technology to today's hunts if they're going to cause a direct decrease in opportunity to hunt, the number of tags available. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. Now, bring it back to why crossbow hunting is hurting bow hunting seasons, because he still hasn't hit that punchline.
Well, he says the data doesn't support that conclusion. At least, and he has a lot of caveats. He says deer-dense areas. So I don't agree with that. I think crossbows are just their level of technology that is so much above a compound bow in terms of their efficiency of killing that it will increase the number of animals harvested, which then will decrease the number of tags you can issue. So let's say during Oregon elk season, like I said, if you can issue 100 tags or 1,000 tags, if you can issue 1,000 tags because you have a 10% success rate, 100 are taken. If you doubled that because you threw crossbow season in there, now you've got to cut your tags in half. Now you can only give 500 tags out a year instead of 1,000 for a certain unit. We do not want that. We do not want that. If that's the case, take your crossbow season and put it in with muzzleloader.
Mm-hmm.
And
give
give
it its
people
own week or something.
people can have the choice of using either one. I'm all for technology. Same thing with the Garmin Zero. If the Garmin Zero is going to increase your success rates to a point where it's going to affect the number of tags available to people, then don't make it illegal for archery season. Because I do not want my archery season. It's already hard enough for me to get a tag. I don't want my rifle season. I don't want a lot of my seasons to be any harder to draw a tag than it is now. So don't add technology to those seasons that dramatically change, the hunter's success to the point where it's no longer even an archery season anymore.
Yeah.
It's more like a rifle season, right? Don't mess with it like that.
You know what it would suck if you were out there bow hunting and there was some jackhole with a rifle?
Well, yeah, or a muzzle loader during your archery season. It's like, well, dang. And
You're
that's
stalking it, 40 yards, ready to take that sweet shot. He's across the canyon.
at 120, drops it. Yeah, that's what I mean. Technology is simple. It's like, don't allow technology into a season that's going to dramatically change harvest rates. So basically, the technology that should be allowed is the technology that's going to make the hunting more efficient, more make it better for the hunter, or just allow whatever you can, as long as it doesn't negatively impact the hunter opportunity. If it's going to negatively impact the number of tags that people can get, then bump that technology into a different season, different time period, where that technology can then doesn't impact the numbers of opportunity. I think that's a fair management choice. So it's like, there's a simple decision tree. New tech comes on the market, Game and Fish have to look at it, and they're like, this is a drone that flies in and has weapons mounted and can shoot maybe if we allowed that, we'd have 100% harvest rate. Yeah, we need to put that in a really special season. And so that's what I mean. Or it comes in and it's like lighted knocks. Okay, should we make lighted knocks legal? Okay, how many more animals are lighted knocks going to kill? None.
Yeah.
They might help in recovery of an animal that's been shot, which is a good thing. It's not really going to change the number of animals killed at all. It might help in, like I said, recovery. So then why would you make it illegal? On what planet are you dreaming? Like, why wouldn't you just say, yeah, hunters, you can have that. Don't care. And so I think that it's that kind of analysis. You look at a Garmin Zero, for example, range finding sight. People lost their minds with that thing. Like, if a guy has that, he is going to kill every year. It's cheating. It's like, okay, it saves you a few seconds, maybe 15 seconds. The time it takes to range, dial, and draw, right? You have to draw anyway. So it's the range, dial. Saves you those seconds. That's all it does. Because right now it's not illegal to use a rangefinder, and it's not illegal to use a single pin slider. All those things are legal, and people use them all the time. And so the Garmin Zero, it doesn't help you stalk the deer. It doesn't help you find the deer. It doesn't help you shoot the deer. It doesn't do anything except save you those seconds that you would use to range and dial. It saves you those seconds. Otherwise, everything's the same. And my feelings are, the time it takes to range and dial is like the last part of trying to kill a deer.
You got to get that first 50.
You got to get like all those billion other steps right first. And then you got to be able to make a good shot. It's not making the shot for you. You still have to execute the shot just like you would with a single pin sliding sight.
You still have to practice.
Yeah, you still have to make a shot under crunch time, not black out, and be a good shot and effective. You still have to get your bow back when the animal's not, in a way that doesn't blow your cover. There's so many things. And so the idea that sight was going to magically increase harvest rates to the point where everyone was going to lose hunting opportunities is just absurd. It's just absurd. I've never been threatened by that, felt threatened by that technology. And the other thing too on that site, I mean, it does decrease. Some guys will say, well, you're getting a more accurate shot. So,
Darn.
a guy would have to guess the yardage if he's going to take that shot normally because he wouldn't have time to range and dial. And to that I say, great, don't we want people to make more accurate shots?
Mm-hmm.
And the flip side to that is they're like, well, that'll increase people's success. Well, actually, it probably will just decrease people's wound rates and loss. They're taking that shot anyway. They're guessing that yardage and they're taking that shot anyway.
How many people shoot a deer, don't find it, shoot another deer?
Exactly. So in my opinion, it's like, oh yeah, a guy's going to range it and now he's going to have an exact single yard pin that he's going to use.
He's going to thwack that sucker, take it home, and not shoot another one.
Or just not kill one that he never finds.
Mm-hmm.
So the flip side to that is, a guy ranges, dials, draws, the buck jogs 10 yards, stops, and he's like, man, it's now or never.
Mm-hmm.
Puts the pin high and shoots. And that's the nature of archery, is using your best judgment to guess yardage and using your sight. Believe me, I understand that. And I understand that the guy that's better at that is more likely to kill than the guy that isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Other than guys like Levi Morgan and some other freaks of nature, I have gone out and done this test with people. We did it with Garmin. We took guys that were 3D dudes. We go out there and we're like, we guessed yardage on like a 20 target course.
How was that?
People were off by 10 to 20 yards on like 70% of the targets.
That's scary.
The best guys were like wrong 30% of the time, 30 or 40% of the time. That means that people who think they're really good at guessing yardage, most of them that say that, they're not.
Mm-mm.
And when terrain changes from spot to spot to spot, if you're hunting a javelina in the desert of Arizona and you're looking at a cactus and you don't live there and you don't know how big that cactus is and it's open country, you don't know how big that javelina is and you're trying to guess its distances and you're hunting elk and you're shooting one inside of an aspen grove and you're looking down a hallway of trees and you see a gap and it's dark in there and you're like, that's 30 yards.
It sounds like a very specific example, Brian.
What I'm saying is guessing yardage is tough. It's a guess. And sometimes you get it right and you win the lottery, you win big, you come home with the animal. Sometimes you guess and it's wrong and you wound the animal. You never find it. Hopefully you didn't kill it. And then sometimes you wound it and kill it and you don't find it. The point I'm making is being able to make a more accurate shot is not a bad thing, and we should all want that. That's all. And again, I don't think that technology like the Zero is going to increase hunter success by so much that it's going to decrease hunter opportunity. In fact, I just laugh at it. It's like people are like, they're like, man, if you use that, it just wasn't even fair. You're like, dude, I would love, you could put that Zero on the same dudes. They say like 5% of the guys kill 90%. Guys and gals kill 5%, kill 90% of the deer.
Mm-hmm.
That same 5% with a Garmin Zero or without a Garmin Zero are still probably going to kill all those deer. They might do it in 7 days instead of 10 though. And they might not lose an animal that they might otherwise lose on their way to getting their tag punch that year. It's all, and so to me, it's like there's so much that goes into hunting that little tiny piece of technology isn't going to change it. But then there's that jump where you go from something like the Zero or a lighted knock to, oh, we're going to send out crossbows that can shoot 100 yards perfectly accurate, especially when your crossbow is mounted to a tripod and you have a scope on it with crosshairs. It's like, okay, now we've moved on from lighted knocks and a Zero to
crossbow
gun. That to me is like where you got to stop and go, okay, maybe it needs its own season. Maybe it needs to go here. And when he talks about in this article, them being into Kentucky and they can't kill enough deer, I get it. Like you want to shoot an arrow probably in city limits. I mean, if you're going to hunt or allow hunting in some of these areas where they just want deer dead, you don't want them shooting guns because a stray bullet could go somewhere. Plus, the noise kind of disturbs the public. So archery is often what they need in order to do that. And when you have deer running out and getting hit by cars and in streets and so forth, yeah, I can say, yeah, there's so many deer. It doesn't matter how many people have a crossbow. You can't even get enough hunters out there to take enough deer to begin with. That's not a good benchmark to say crossbows don't actually impact your season. Not a good benchmark. So I don't buy into the whole thing that the data doesn't support it. I get his point, though, on the fact that something was missing. Look, you wanted a challenge. Maybe it felt too easy using a crossbow. That's individual. That's up to the person. They can go and have the experience they want. He wanted to bring home a deer, probably wanted some meat. He hadn't killed a deer in a long time. It was legal. He was thrilled with the buck. I don't give a dang what grandma and grandpa thought, or his dad when he got back to, or his buddies when he got back to deer camp. That's irrelevant to me. But if he's personally felt like, yeah, it was not as fulfilling as another type of hunt, an archery hunt, I get that. I go out and there's some hunts that aren't as fulfilling. When I talked about the other week, when I talked about killing my buck in Ohio and the one in Texas, fulfilling. They were fulfilling because they were really hard and I pulled it off. It's always going to be that way. But it can be like that on a rifle hunt too. I hunted with Dwayne this year, my buddy Dwayne, for elk, backpacked in pretty deep. Man, if I could have pulled a big 6 out of that hunt, it would have been freaking sweet, man. And that was the goal. But it was still a late season rifle hunt. It wasn't a bow hunt. You don't need the weapon, in my opinion, to have the challenge. He says at the end of this article, he says, some veteran deer hunters have had their fair share of challenging deer seasons and just want the most effective method of putting a deer in the freezer. And I agree with that. It's like sometimes a guy just, dude, he's been out there, he's hunted a lot. He just wants to get a deer. And some new hunters are likely looking for every possible advantage in hopes of killing a deer or maybe tagging a bigger buck than they did last season. Totally agree with that. That's what I was saying earlier about level of experience. Someone that's got very little experience wants as much technology as they can because they have a hard enough time filling a tag, right? But as you get better and better, you want more and more challenge. And so you're likely to drop the compound and go for a stick bow, or you're likely to stop with the rifle and try a bow hunt, But that, again, is personal. He says, there's nothing wrong with either, and I'm happy to share the woods with both types. As for me, I've been shooting my compound bow plenty this summer, and I plan to pack a little more carefully for the family deer camp this fall. So there's your crossbow discussion.
I still think they should have their own season.
Technology discussion. I agree. I think it's false advertising to say it's not a data thing and it's an emotional thing. No, I think that crossbows definitely impact harvest rates and thereby decrease hunter opportunity. I don't think there's a debate about that. When you go out on a range and you watch a dude shoot a crossbow mounted to a tripod
with a
scope,
crossbow guy.
And then you watch people trying to struggle to shoot a compound bow at 90 yards. You can't compare the two. They're not the same, dude. And so I don't need stats to tell.
Well, he admitted it. I mean, he flat out took the crossbow because he hadn't practiced.
Right.
That's the reason why he took it.
Right. So I don't agree that people don't despise that archery hunters despise crossbows only because it's an emotional thing. No, they despise it because it's a data thing. They kill more animals. Now, in certain areas, it doesn't matter that much because there's just so many animals. Doesn't matter. Like you said in Kentucky. I get that. And then I do agree on the other side. The flip side is...
it's just not fair.
But I don't think... people don't like crossbows for the other reason as well that he cited, which was basically it's not as challenging and therefore not as meaningful of an experience. But again, to me, that's a circular argument that can just go down the line. Take rifle, take shotgun, take a slug, take a muzzle loader. It's like you're cheating. Oh, then this guy's cheating, and that guy's cheating, and that guy's cheating, and all the way down to what you're using your bare hands and a knife. It's like what's not cheating? It's stupid to use that whole measurement. It's personal. It doesn't matter what the other guy does to hunt, if it's legal and it's in that season. To me, our seasons are there to protect opportunity. They're there to protect the ability for lots of tags to go out and let everybody have a chase. Okay. That's what those seasons are for. And people who are willing to wait 25 years for an area where they can rifle hunt elk that are of a certain caliber, that's what they wanted. That's what they can do. Mm-hmm. And that's the sort of experience that they wanted and the challenges they wanted. But again, it's personal.
Well, I think that the season should also be fair for everyone. We should all have the same opportunity. When I'm going out there with my or if I go out there with a crossbow and you go out there with a compound, I have a greater opportunity than you do. I don't feel like that right there is fair.
Now, sort of agree and sort of disagree with you on that. Because...
Well, you're wrong.
Because you go out there with a compound, right? What if I don't want to shoot a compound? What if I want to shoot a homemade stick bow in that same season? What if I want to make it harder for myself than you do in that season? Do you have a problem with that? If you're going out with a compound and some dude shows up with a recurve, do you care?
No,
because it's harder.
He can go kick rocks.
Because it's harder. Like I said, it's about opportunity. As long as the new technology doesn't take away from your hunting opportunity, your future ability to get a tag, why do you care? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like you said, I don't want to go out there when some guy goes out there, it's like brings a gun to a knife fight. I don't want to be the guy with the knife, Well, I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you're the guy with the knife fight, you go with other guys in the knife fight, right? Everybody brings a knife. That's fair. And some guy can bring a 12-inch knife and some guy can bring a 6-inch knife. If he wants to challenge with a 6-inch knife, that's fine, right? But everybody gets a knife. That's what we said. That's how our season is designed. Now, if it's a gunfight, everybody should get to bring a gun, right? And if a guy wants to show up to the gunfight with a knife and make it harder for himself,
more power to you.
More power to you. Don't care. But don't bring the gun to the knife fight. That's where your technology has now crossed boundaries. We've gone too far. Is this making sense?
Yes.
Clear as mud?
Well, it's getting late.
Yeah, it is.
It's past my bedtime.
Well, if it wasn't so hard to explain things to you, I'd have moved on by now. Anyway, there you have it, folks. Crossbows in bow hunting. Our opinion. These articles were from Outdoor Life today. And again, reading in the bathroom. There's a lot of food for thought there. Discussions that we've kind of had before, but I think they're just good for hunters to talk about and think about. So anybody has any dissenting opinions, by all means, let us know on our YouTube channel. And don't forget to check out our films. And if you've got any questions, send them our way. Happy to discuss them, answer them. And I'm sure these topics will come up again with other guests that are coming on the show. And hope we see you at one of the movie nights coming up. Don't forget, folks, use the code GRITTY at Mountain Ops. Save free shipping. Use the code GRITTY, get some sissy sticks and Heather's Choice. Get yourself some delicious packarons. Thanks for tuning into the podcast. Thanks for supporting what we do. Really appreciate it. Stay gritty, friends.